bright and shining that day. Blue black shade tea, burnished gold rock tea, deep chocolate ices, copper Venus, warm brown Pocahontas. The prophet has sent you on a solid foundation, never again to be removed, that I claim my birthright. For why should I call myself black and beautiful, but it's the shoes of my dance is the dance of the toucans. Such a man, Lord of Egypt, mighty, mighty, mighty Mobitus, I cries, I stumble, but never fall, for I'm the goddess of everyone, and everything that grows.
That's why we have the Supreme Grand Sheik here, Brother Bailey Hill. We have him here, so we can go back to basics, so we can tell you how the movement started, where the movement is, and who you are. So, Supreme Grand Sheik, tell us how the movement started and why it started.
Well, it's from Sister Carol Bolton. First, I would like to give the highest of praise to my Father, God Allah, for having the opportunity to be here. And I'd like to give the highest of honors to His and our holy and divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America. You know, there's no doubt concerning this fact that the Father God Allah prepared and sent a divine prophet to the Asiatic people, the Moorish Americans here in North America. And the movement has always been, per se, an Islamic movement. That's why we think in terms of Noble Drew Ali as being the founder of the first Islamic movement in North America.
Right.
But the purpose always has been and always will be to improve or make the condition of our people better. In other words, the purpose of the Moorish Science Temple of America has and always will be to uplift our people. And that's why we say that the purpose is the uplifting of fallen humanity. And we define that by saying this, that when you uplift a people or a nation, what you do is you make their condition better. You improve them. What the Moorish Science Temple of America is out to improve is the spiritual, the social, the intellectual, and the economic condition of our people. We can so readily see, as you said in your opening statements, that a mighty work is ours. When we look at the condition of our people, as I've been talking about with Brother Gainesville, that the condition of our people all throughout North America must improve. It's really a Negro problem. If you want to really get down to the nitty-gritty.
Yes.
When you look at the crime rates, when you look at the unemployment, when you look at the lack of proper education, it's a Negro problem.
Yes, it is.
That's what our prophet called it. And it can only be solved by the Moorish divine and national movement. And this is why we're putting in programs now to do that. We're making sure that our people really understand, especially the Moorish leaders around the country whom we're bringing into unity in these days with the original grand body that I represent. We're bringing them into unity with the original grand body so that they can understand that our prophet told us the problems of life are like mainly social and economic. But when we see all of this shooting, all of this lack of family unity, the lack of respect for human life, the lack of religious consciousness amongst our children, is because our people and our leaders really don't understand that in a very profound sense, like our prophet said, our problems are moral and spiritual. It's not?
It's not. It's not. Very, very, very good. So how did he start the movement?
Well, we started out in Newark, New Jersey,
Okay.
as a Canaanland church, knowing all along that our purpose has always been to make the condition of our people better. It always has been a movement that had, per se, an Islamic foundation. That's always been there.
Yes, but the prophet says, you know something, and I had always, I kind of wondered about that, but he always said it wasn't Islamism. It's not Islam. It's there. What's the difference between
Well,
Islam and
we're talking about
The old
the
Testament.
study of or the practice of.
Okay.
You know, when we say Islamism,
Okay.
you know, it's our religion.
Right.
It's the practice of Islam. But what we have to understand is this, is that the Moorish Science of America is something that's alive and it's growing. And we grew out of New Jersey. A lot of people don't understand what occurred between the time the Prophet Noble Drew Ali left Newark
No, look at that. I got it.
and put his foot down in Chicago, what we call Cook County,
Right.
okay? He met a lot of people along the way.
Right.
Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Detroit, so on.
Mm-hmm.
And once he got here into Chicago, he was situated in Cook County that has home road.
Mm-hmm.
And he was able to do some things here in Cook County that he couldn't do there. And once he started doing these things in Cook County, in year 26, we were calling ourselves the Moorish Holy Temple of Science,
Mm-hmm.
and we were a civic organization. We were functioning as a civic
Right.
organization. But since the work of the movement was largely religious,
Mm-hmm.
the evolution continued.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1928, the Prophet renamed the movement the Moorish Science Temple of America. It was in July of 28, July 20th to be exact. He held a meeting. And at that time, he organized us as a religious corporation and adopted the Moorish Science Temple of America as our corporate name. And all the time he's still giving us structure. And we had one very eventful day, and then I'm going to let the other brothers say something. We had one very eventful day. And that was when we had our first convention. And that was in October of 1928. We had the first convention of Moorish Science Temple of America. And my family was there. My great-grandparents, my grandparents, my mother, my father, and my older sister
Oh, my goodness.
were there at that first convention in October of 1928. And now we were this religious corporation. And he did something that really, I have to use the word profound again. It was on October the 17th, 1928, during that first convention. He wrapped the American flag around a little Moorish boy. And that little boy's name was Willie Mack Morris Eel. That's Moorish history. He wrapped that flag on October the 17th, 1928, around a little Moorish boy. His name was Willie Mack Morris Eel. He was the grandson of the second Supreme Grand Chief of the MSTA. And he wrapped the Moorish flag around my mother's first cousin. At that time, her name was Grace Berry Eel. Having wrapped the Moorish flag around Grace
Mhm.
and the American flag around little brother Willie McMorris Hill, he looked at the Moors and he said, I've made you a nation within a nation.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And to me, that's it.
That is very beautiful.
That was it.
That's
Now, there's a lot we got to say about what occurred after that.
yeah, but you know something, I had read somewhere that it was after this that the Roman Catholic Church made themselves a nation within a nation. Because I had read that Noble Ali had done this first. And then in Rome, they made themselves a nation within a nation, the Vatican.
Well,
Themselves.
the Vatican and everything that the Europeans about, they've learned from us.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Everything that they're about,
Right,
they learned from us.
exactly.
The Catholic Church and the Moorish Saints of America are really the really only true religious corporations
Right,
in North America.
yeah.
Yeah. And we understand the fact that we must live up to that.
Right.
You know, we can talk about how somebody's imitating us and what somebody else is doing all we want to. We can talk about how original we are.
Right. Well, that's what I wanted to know. I wanted the children to know
Yeah.
that we are original.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. I wanted the history. I want them to know the history. And I want them to know that all along when they've been thinking that they really nobody, because
Yeah.
nobody's doing anything for them as far as the mind and their sense of religion. No one is doing anything for them. So I wanted them to know that this history, and most history, it starts from them.
Yeah.
It starts with us.
There must be a presence out in the streets.
Mhm.
Right now, I see different groups and different temples
Yes,
having
yes.
these things where they're giving the school children papers and books and
Right,
things for going back to school. We're working in certain areas with having basketball teams amongst, conflicting teenagers. We're working in areas where we have to give attention to the spiritual and nourishment needs of people who don't come to the temple.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
It's like reaching out.
Yes.
We call it the outreach program.
Right.
There must be more and more outreach programs and more involvement in outreach programs by Moorish Americans. We just can't come to the temple and get that good feeling and go back home.
That's right.
We got to come to the temple so fired up that we want to be out there the next day
Among the people.
amongst the people
Yes.
working in the community.
Yes.
Is what we've got to do.
Yes.
With turbans and fezzes on,
Right.
so people will know who we are.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. And so in that way, it'll give them the incentive to find out
Yeah.
who they are.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, the main thing that we're trying to do too, another main thing that we're trying to do is get people to know and understand what this movement is all about
Right.
and what our goals and objectives are. To get the membership itself so fired up that they're going to go out and bring somebody else in. Let me tell you a little story. I'm going to tell it as fast as I can.
Okay.
I'm a big talker.
Okay. We know.
It was, this is how we got to do in the movement. We're trying to get the members to understand. My mother had an aunt. This aunt was my grandmother's sister-in-law. She went to the temple at 3140 South Indiana in February of 1927, and she heard the prophet speak. She actually saw the prophet speak. She knew this was for her, and she joined the movement that night. She joined the movement that Friday evening. She came back to the house, and at that time you might have two or three families in the same apartment.
Right. Right.
She came back home, and she told my grandmother, my mother, and my uncle, and her husband, all about this prophet. And they said, yeah. And it took her 2 weeks to get my mother and my grandmother and her husband to come to a meeting, but they came and they joined. And then my mother's brother joined. And then my great-grandmother, my great-grandfather joined, and their brother joined. And I'm saying this to say that my aunt pulled in about 15 or 20 people.
Right.
We got to have some Moors come in, and then they go out, and they come back, and they bring 15, 20 people.
Right.
You know, that's strength in numbers.
Right, there is.
You know, there's a lot of work to be done, and we need these people to do this work.
Right, exactly.
And we're working on that now. We want to bring in people, and then they go get people.
Yeah, but it seems so divided. We seem so very divided. How are we going to overcome that?
You want me to take that one? Let me tell you about this division situation.
Okay.
It's nothing new. It's nothing new. Let me tell you this. Because my mother and father were there. And I barely missed being there. I was born in 1939. Our per se division in the MSTA started in August, or you could say July, let's say July of 1929. That's when the division started. Now prior to that, yes, we had some people that were not in sync with the prophet, were not obeying the prophet, but there was only one MSTA. And there was only one prophet.
Okay.
Matter of fact, the prophet said, there's only one temple, and it's mine. Okay? But visualize this, envision this. July the 27th, 1929, we had a funeral for our prophet, Noble Drew. My family played an active role in the prophet's funeral. In the sense that my grandfather presided over the prophet's funeral. The Supreme Grand Sheikh of the MSTA. Now, some people say these other things, but that's not true.
Right.
The Supreme Grand Sheikh of the MSTA presided over the prophet's funeral, and my uncle, Austin Brown Bay, read the prophet's funeral obituary at the prophet's funeral on July the 27th, 1929, and we have that obituary today. Okay? The prophet visualizes, the prophet is laying in his casket dead. There were only 3 types of Moors at that time. Let me say it this way. Only 3 types of Moors came up and looked at the prophet laying in his casket.
Okay.
There were the Moors who were going to stick with the prophet's way of doing things. There were the Moors that wanted to undo some of the changes that the prophet had put in place.
Oh, okay.
That's a fact.
Okay.
And then there was a third group of Moors that was a unique group of Moors. What they really wanted was another prophet.
Oh, okay.
3 types of Moors. Looking at the prophet. No. Listen to me, Moors, because first time some of you heard this. This is the truth. There were 3 types of Moors looking at the prophet laying in his casket. The ones who were going to stick with his way of doing things, the ones who wanted to make changes, go back to their way of doing some things. Remember the general laws that the prophet put in place in October of 28. A lot of Moors, governing officials, didn't like that. Then there's this other group of Moors, what they wanted was another prophet. Bam! Brother Emilio is saying, I'm sticking with the prophet, I'm not going to undo anything that he put, changes he put in place, and Moors gravitated toward him. So Moors did. There's another one that we made an ad at in August of 29 that said, hey, If you want to make some changes, I'll do some things, I'm your man in Mecca. That plain that simple. And he was a nice guy. Everybody liked to see Kirk was back. I don't know if anybody didn't like him.
Right. This is
See Kirk was back. And some people gravitated towards him.
Right.
Then the third one said, well, the prophet's spirit came up out of his body and came down into mine. And I'm the prophet reincarnated. He said, remember our triple number one? We got, we even had a record where he, Johnny, we're talking about Johnny Gibbons here. We even had a record where he made his first per capita tax payment in November of 1928, November the 16th, 1928. He made his first per capita tax payment. We're the original grand body.
Right.
We got the records to prove it.
Right.
But I'm not saying it's records that make us, but it's the knowledge that we have of what went wrong that more need to know, so they need to listen to us.
Right, exactly.
Not because we're so original this, original that, but so that you can get the truth.
Right, exactly. Because the prophet said the movement could not continue without him.
Yes.
So he's always the prophet. There's no reincarnation or anything. He's always the head of the movement.
The prophet vested his power in a supreme body.
Oh, okay, okay. Like the Supreme Council.
Yes.
Okay.
And what we ended up in August, July 29, that's when the division started.
Okay.
And each one of those little groups have been splitting more and more ever since. And then we got people nowadays just want to throw up the sign and say, I'm the more Citizenship of America.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Right, right.
It's a tremendous problem, but
Right.
we don't need to fight each other about it. What we need to do is explain to each other and everybody understand what went wrong and just say, come back home. I don't speak against anybody per se unless they're not with the prophet and they're out of sync with the prophet. But if you're in sync with the prophet and I'm in sync with the prophet, hey, it's cool.
Right.
So that's why I have a lot of respect for this war, for Brother Gainesville and Brother Ken Bay, and the Moore in Philadelphia, Brother Azim Hawkins Bay. I love the Moore. He's in sync with the prophet, you know, and he knows what went wrong, and he knows what we got to do.
Well, God, we haven't been doing it. I mean, we're so behind. I feel like you're so very, very behind.
Here we go again.
Yes.
The problems in the Moore Science Temple of America has never, ever been the general membership.
Okay.
The problems in the Moore Science Temple of America has always been the governing officials.
Oh, okay. All right, all right.
Go back and look at historical documents. We want to talk about what's wrong with the movement. The things that were wrong in 1927, 28 are the same things that are wrong now. We haven't got no problems.
Oh, okay.
It's still the same old problem with governing officials who want things their way instead of the prophet's way. That's the problem. You know, it's not that we got a whole lot of Moors out there that don't want to come together. We got some Moors out there that are not going to let us come together.
Oh, okay, okay. I see that. But see, while we're doing that, and the leaders are doing this, our children are dying.
That's right. We dropped the ball. I tell them what's this all the time. I say, you know, we're juggling about 10, 15 balls. And they can't drop any of them.
Right.
We got to deal with our internal problems and not neglect our children.
Exactly. Exactly.
And not neglect the family. And not neglect the moral and spiritual values that are not being taught.
Right.
When the prophet changed form, we were so busy fighting for power amongst ourselves and engaging our followers to join us in the fight that we forgot what we're supposed to be about.
Exactly. Exactly.
We stopped uplifting fallen humanity.
Yes.
The prophet was showing us how to accumulate wealth. The prophet was showing us how to gain and acquire economic power and create jobs for our people. We stopped doing that. So we could go to the European and get his approval on saying we're this and we're that.
Exactly, exactly, and we have no business doing that.
No.
We have never had any business doing that.
No.
You know.
What we got to do is come together and support the prophet and stop supporting the me ideas of men, which have always done us harm.
Yes, it has.
Never did us any good.
Right.
The prophet told us this. He said, watch your enemies, dear more. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet. I had a more came up in my face and told me, he said, you know, I got a problem with the prophet's marriage instructions. I said, more, you better get out of my face. Don't you ever dare come in front of me and tell me you got a problem with my prophet or the prophet's law. Don't ever do that. You know? When we have a movement where people can come in and tell us the prophet's not right,
Oh, yes. I get you.
we got a problem.
Yes, we do. A big problem. A big problem.
We have had all kind of people come into the movement with all these things that distract us from what we should be doing.
Right, exactly.
Prophet told us stay out of European court.
Right.
We got more ready to get up in there so they can tell somebody they don't have jurisdiction over. The prophet told us stay out of there.
Right, exactly.
You know?
And we have to do the things to stay out of there.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And they've got to know the things that they got to do so they can stay out of there.
We're supposed to have more communities where we tell you, I got this.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
I got this.
Right,
You got this.
And we do have.
right.
Ain't none of that going on.
No, it's not.
You know?
No,
And we got to be real about it.
right.
You know, we're moving into the future. Right now, we're making big moves in the movement. And as far as reaching out, we're making big moves. We have a membership orientation manual that we put a lot of time into. We're working with Moors and other groups. You know, we got a database. The prophet wanted us to have a Moorish American town, and he wanted us to have some farmland. Let's be real. We need to single out communities in Chicago where we can go in there and clean it up.
Right.
The Moors clean it up.
Right.
We need to go into Englewood and clean it up.
Yes, we do. We should have done that years and years and
We
years
need to go
ago.
into Roseland and clean it up.
Yes, years and years ago.
And
Yes,
people would, Europeans would gladly see
Yes.
us move into Englewood
exactly.
and take it over
That's right.
and make it a Moorish community.
Yeah, because it's better for them.
And when the European policeman drives by, it could be Asiatic policeman, all I care, work with the European.
Right.
When he pulls up to the edge of that community, we say, whoa, we got this.
That's right.
We got this. We know how to stop crime.
Yes.
We know how to educate our people.
Yes.
I love Malcolm X. Thought he was a great person.
Yes, he
And
was.
I don't take that word off of it.
No.
You know? He wasn't a car carrying Moor, but he's a great person.
Exactly.
You know? Malcolm X said only a fool would have his enemy educate his children.
There you go.
I asked a car carrying Moor one time, who discovered America? He said Christopher Columbus. It's sad.
Yeah, it is.
That's what our children are being taught.
Exactly.
You know, we complain about the crime and all this other stuff, but what about this other stuff our children are being taught?
Right.
You know,
But that's
our
why
children-
we're playing. That's
our
why
children
we're
are being
playing.
taught to act like that.
Right,
They
exactly.
see it on television.
Yes,
They got it on the video game.
that's right.
You know, they want something to shoot,
Right,
and they're gonna shoot anybody. They don't care.
right.
They're just gonna shoot.
But that's manipulation, and they don't realize it's manipulation. But when it first came out, you saw it was nothing but manipulation. So why didn't we stop it? Why
We're
couldn't we
being
stop
played.
it?
We're being played in a very intelligent manner because, believe me, take my word for it, the penal system in the United States of America is a business enterprise and somebody's making money.
That's right. That's right. Exactly,
Somebody's making money,
exactly.
and they're doing good.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Sister, if I could just chime in.
Yes, please do.
It's because we don't have the knowledge of ourselves.
Themselves.
Mhm.
Exactly.
And again, just giving praise to Allah and giving absolute gratitude to Allah for giving us our prophet and the personage of Noble Drew Ali. Our people's suffrage is directly caused by not having the knowledge of ourselves.
Yeah.
We're stripped of our identity in its totality. We were given marks and brands of slavery, titles such as Negroes, blacks, coloreds, things that allude directly to slavery, that doesn't contribute to humanity or any advancements of civilization. So when we have these type of marks on us as a people, our children don't aspire to do great things because they have no knowledge, no recollection, no records of their people accomplishing great things. So we always teach that when the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali was born and his arrival, his prophethood has completely reshuffled the deck of civilization. It has completely reshuffled the deck of civilization by giving us our true identities back to us, our true nationality, our true birthrights that was sequestered from our people for generations, for successive generations, by Europeans and political control. It was crafted, it was designed, it was constructed and enforced to keep us from having the knowledge of our true identity. During the time of chattel slavery, it was illegal for a Moor who was branded Negro, black, or colored to be able to read, to be able to write. And these laws were not in place to keep us from being able to understand storybooks or anything like this. It was to keep us away from reading law, from studying law, from learning your birthrights. So, you know, like I said, when the prophet has arrived and given us our nationality back, that changes the whole dynamic here in America. And the prophet taught us we don't have to go anywhere. This is our soil.
Right.
We are not strangers to the soil of America. The land belongs to the Moors. Moors need to know this. When the Supreme Grand Sheikh spoke about the young Moor who said that Christopher Columbus discovered America, all Moors should know that they can quote the letter that George Washington wrote to the Moorish Sultan here in America, asking for permission to settle down. Because the Europeans that were coming over here was fleeing the persecution and the prosecution over there in Europe.
Yes.
So when they came here, if you read the journals of Christopher Columbus, he tells you that we left Mohammedans over in Europe, and on our arrival here in America,
Same thing.
we are running into more Mohammedans,
Same thing.
woolly hair, brown skin, red feathers. We're running to the same people. These people are everywhere. They have, if you read the chronicles of Christopher Columbus, he tells you, it appears as if they have subdued the entire earth.
Right.
Everywhere that he navigated, he came across Moors and he had to deal with Islamic laws. Now, when we say Islamic laws, we clearly understand how the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali instructed us to perceive it. You follow? We, as the Supreme Grand Sheikh, and I want to thank the Supreme Grand Sheikh for keeping the temple doors open for Moors like myself, for children growing up to come in to know these divine truths. But original Islam, the original pillars of Islam are ancient. That's right, the old time, which is also called Islamism, which means it's active. It's a verb, transitive verb, meaning that you have to be engaged in about the practice of Islam. So the original pillars of Islam are love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Yes, the tenets that we hear about being of Islam today, they're noble. But the Prophet told us, in true and ancient Islam, that old time religion, nobody can dispute the characteristics of Islam. And I say that to say this. I mean, when you say let's say if I'm from another part of the world, if I'm from China, right, and I come to America, and we have a dialogue, we have a discourse, and I say, hey, I think that for all humanity, we should love each other. Now, I can be from America, you can be from China.
Right.
Guess what? Both parties don't have a problem with love.
No.
And we say we should be truthful with one another.
Right.
We don't have a problem with that.
No.
We should be peaceful. It won't be debated.
No.
See, it's universal. Islam is universal in its characteristics. But when you have an issue, let's say, for example, just making Hajj to Mecca, Arabia, once in your lifetime, if you can afford it, that's a noble act. That's a righteous act. But everybody around the world will not necessarily subscribe to that tenet. So when the Prophet taught us that we are the fathers and founders of civilization and true Islam, he said those characteristics will never be disputed, challenged, or disagreed upon by anybody in the human family.
Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice.
And that's what we promote.
Right.
That's
the old time religion.
That's the old time religion.
It's not the old Islam or the new Islam. It's the old Islam.
It's the old time religion, and it's universal.
But you know, it's so profound, I keep using that word, that in the divine warning to the nation, our prophet Noble Drawley made it very clear that he was divinely prepared and sent to us so that he could take us back to that state of mind of our forefathers.
That's right.
You see, when we get back into that state of mind of our forefathers, there's no Negroism there.
No.
That's
no
right.
reason.
You know, there's Islam there. You know, there's unity there. When that is completely instilled in the Moors here in North America, as it should be, it's like the Moor said, it's going to be a big change.
Oh yeah. Oh
It's
yeah.
going to be a big change.
Yeah.
And it's happening.
You know,
Right.
when our people lift themselves up and begin to act civilized with one another,
Right.
and stop acting like Negroes.
Right.
You see, our people have been trained to act
Like
the way
that.
they act.
Right.
You know, nothing just happens.
Right.
That, you know, our prophet taught to us, there are no happenings. The law governs all
All
of
things.
it.
That's right. That's right.
You see, and we got to get ourselves in accordance with law.
Right.
The way we think, the way we act,
Right.
the way we talk. We got to get in accordance with Islamic law.
Love,
That's what
truth,
we've got
peace,
to do.
freedom, and justice. I want to keep stressing that because people would say, "Well, you." I'm going to tell you something, Grancy. When I was doing a show with someone, I was working on a camera. I was right there where Zaki is, and it was an old Moor. He had come in, and he was a guest on the show, and he was telling them. He said, "Well, I wanted a more traditional Islam." And when he said that, he started staring straight at me, and he started rising up out of that seat. Right during the show, started rising up and just staring at me, rising up out of that seat. And when that show was over, he flew out of here. Why? People need to know what true Islam is. Because when he said he wanted traditional Islam, he had gone to this other, he's talking about this other, he didn't know that we're the true Islam.
That's right.
Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Not all this other stuff you hear from here and hear from there. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And our people need to know, our kids need to know that. Our kids want love. You know something, when Antonia Tuff, when she talked that young man out of killing those kids at that school, what did she say? She said, "We love you.
That's right.
That's right.
We love you."
That's right.
And that's what you were saying.
That's right.
No matter what it
And
is.
sister, I'd like
Love
to
is
chime
the
in on
savior
that
of the world.
and camelback on what you're saying is, see, what the game that's being played is, if you look at our people in particular here in the Americas, all right, who went through the experience and the suffrages of chattel slavery, if you look at our spirituality, what we call spirituality, our religions, our people, the so-called Negroes, blacks, and coloreds, they historically and traditionally, since chattel slavery and during chattel slavery, have always reached for a profit outside of their own people. If they study Christianity, they're thinking of a foreign European person, right? Or even if they delve into other traditional religions like Buddhism, they're reaching to somebody outside of their nationality. Jesus was an Israelite. If they focus on Moses was an Israelite. Everything that our people have always gravitated to, as far as institutionalized and organized religion, has always reached for somebody outside of themselves. So when you do that, you're saying that Almighty God Allah in heaven, or whatever name you choose to identify with, you're saying that He doesn't have love for our people because He never sent us our own prophet for our own redemption. So what's so unique and what's so special is that Prophet Noble Drew Ali was born from amongst us.
Right.
Was born from amongst us.
Yes. Yes.
Our own prophet.
Yes.
Our own guide.
Yes.
And we don't have to learn a foreign language because He can't speak in our tongue.
Exactly.
In fact, the scripture says that Jesus, in this day and time, would be born amongst His own people, right? But His own people would perceive Him not, and they will reject Him.
Right.
And that's what's going on. There are people in high places that are starting to scrutinize. They're starting to critically analyze the Moorish movement growing in America. It is growing. It is getting profound. It is. The people are reconnecting to their true identity. And this is due to the arrival of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Whenever a prophet is sent into the world from Allah, he not only deals with their spiritual needs and their spiritual necessities, he also addresses their social and economic conditions. That's why Jesus, in the historical Jesus, said that you give to Rome and you give to Caesar what belongs to him.
And put to God that do God.
Give him. And that's what we're doing. When we proclaim our nationality as Moorish Americans, we reject the titles of Negro, Black, and Color, and these other titles and classifications that delude to slavery, that take us outside of our proper person, that takes us outside of our proper contributions to civilization. In fact, the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali in the Supreme Grand Sheikh teaches all Moorish Americans that for you to go around and call yourself Negro, Black, and Colored is not
African American,
all African American, all Latino, all these other slave titles,
I want you to address that. That's something I definitely want you to address.
They teach us, Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Supreme Grand Sheikh Billy Hill, and other elders in the Moorish movement, teach us that not only is this incorrect and legally incorrect, it's legally and historically a falsity, and it's out of line, but what they teach is that it's actually a divine sin for you to castrate yourself from the natural identity that Almighty God Allah has given us as a people.
Exactly. And I want you and the Supreme Grand Sheikh, I want you all to address this. I have Haitian friends. In fact, I've been around Haitians more than I've been around other people. And I know one of my Haitian friends, he's like a little brother with me, you know. And we used to do shows together and blah, blah, blah. Okay. And so we fell out, like brothers and sisters. You know, I'm the older sister, he's the younger brother. Okay. And so anyway, one night I was going home. He said, "I'll take you home, Carol." And so this other person, like, "Oh, you may wind up in a ditch or something somewhere." But she didn't understand. That's the only friend I've never had a friend. He's the only friend I ever had. You know, to do things with. You know, to do shows and go out and shoot people and stuff. I've never had a friend like that. The only friend in the world that I ever had was Busico. The only friend in the world, besides Noble Drew Ali, that I've ever had in my life was Busico. And for her to do that, and that made me, I went into a crisis. I went into shock. I had to go to the hospital because I have sickle cell disease. And so emotions, you know, trigger stuff like that.
Why would she say that?
I don't know. I don't understand that Zaka is there. He's a friend, but he's not a friend like Busico. We didn't do things together.
That wasn't something that you just ignored?
I don't know. It just got to me. It just got to me like, you don't know who you are, so you don't know who he is. I mean, it's like, you know, they're foreign. The Haitians are foreign to us or something.
Don't you played on that.
Yeah, so that's why it got to like that.
That's why I appreciate the relationship I have with this move
Mm-hmm.
and other moves. Younger. I'm about twice his age. Okay?
Me too.
It's twice your age.
No, I'm trying to say.
Oh. But here's the thing. Even though he's different, he might talk different, he eat different, he's your brother.
Exactly.
He's your brother.
Exactly.
My experiences with more science has been more so that I want to keep it alive
Yes. Yes.
for this more.
Islam.
And that we can meet and agree on how to take it forward.
Islam.
You know, my contribution, even like on this show, I think I came on this show as somebody who could give the history.
That's right.
You know, but that's okay because I'm in agreement with a lot of more as to how we can move forward.
Right. Right.
You know, and but people will come in and they will play you against me or play me against you or something like that, and what we cannot do is we cannot allow them to be successful.
That's right.
You see,
Okay.
we can, you know, we got enough people as it is
That's right.
causing divisions in this movement.
That's right.
Yes.
You know, and what amazes me is that some people who are so dedicated to the prophet will allow somebody to walk up in their face and tell them the prophet's not right. You know? The prophet said this. He said, there are evil spirits moving upon this plane. Now, that individual that told you about you going to be going over in the ditch, that was an evil spirit.
That's right.
You know,
Okay. Okay.
causing a division between you and your only friend,
Exactly.
Teach.
Exactly.
your real friend.
Right.
You know, somebody that loved you and you loved them, and, and the two of you had a beautiful friendship.
Right.
But they just they know exactly what to say, they know exactly what to do. I've had people say things about me and make people say, ooh, I better not have nothing to do with them.
Oh my goodness.
You know? Yeah. They know what to say. They know what to do.
Oh, okay.
And we're still fighting at this very day. I tell a lot of older Moors, I said, you know, you gotta know how to change. And you got to know sometimes how to get out of the way.
Okay. Okay.
You know,
Okay.
This movement has got to grow and develop. You know, the prophet said this. He said a lot of people were opposed to him, especially a lot of certain Christian ministers, because they view Islam and the Moorish Temple of America as something new.
How's it something new?
You see? And when we talk and communicate, we're not talking about something new, we're talking about our forefathers.
Exactly.
We're talking about how our forefathers did Salah.
That's right.
You know? We're talking about how our forefathers observed Ramadan. You know? We're talking about a Moorish nation that has a foundation. We've been running around here acting silly and meandering for 100 years, but now playtime is out.
Exactly.
The older Moor
Yes.
and the younger Moor got to get together.
Yes.
Islam.
Yes.
They've got to get together.
Yes. Yes.
Some older Moors are not going to do it.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
Some younger Moors say, well, you know, the older Moor, I got to push him in the back and get him out of the way. That is not their time of day.
That's right.
Yet. It's not that time of day yet with me.
Right.
Because we can work together.
That's right.
I know we got to take it to another level.
Right.
There's a lot of confusion in the movement. The Moor was speaking to me about all this confusion in the movement. Nothing just happens. It's caused. And if there's confusion in the movement, we should be able to spot it. And we should be able to know who caused it. We should make a list of all those Moors who are causing confusion.
Islam.
And everybody ignore them.
Oh, okay. But,
People like that gonna turn you against your friend. You got to ignore them. And you should tell other people what they're about.
right. But you know something, we don't have but a couple of minutes, and what I want you to address is the fact that who's in this family of people, of us? You know, let them know that Haitians are us.
Sure they are.
Okay, Latinos are us.
That's right.
Okay.
If I can just interject right quick, we have to understand that during the time, for the portion of our people, of the Moors, who experienced the transatlantic slavery, we have to understand that that junction of time, the places that we call Nigeria, Libya, all of these different names, these are corporate, these are corporate names.
Exactly.
All of that dominion of West Africa was identified by historical records as Moroccans. Those people were Moroccans. They were Moors. They weren't Nigerians. These are corporate names
Exactly.
that just started being utilized and circulated so many years ago.
Right.
We were historically always documented and identified and self-proclaimed as Moors. Maybe different variations of the word Moor, Moor, Moroccan. Moor is just short for Moroccans.
Let me ask you a question real quick, since we only got a few
Yeah,
minutes.
we just got about a minute now.
This is about the uniting of Asia.
That's right.
That Haitian may not be, per se, a Moor, but he probably is,
Right, exactly.
okay? But there are other people that may not be a Moor, but they're Asiatic.
Right.
And this is the uniting
Of
of
the
Asia.
Asian people.
We're seeking to bring all the Asiatic people together.
Back into the family.
Here's something else I want to say.
Okay.
We need to get a little more knowledgeable of our brothers and sisters in Central and South America.
Exactly, exactly.
I was speaking with a Mexican not too long ago, and I was surprised. He said something to me, I got to check it out. He said, oh, Cuban's not a nationality. I said, really? But there's something that is missing. They don't want to be called Latinos.
Right.
They don't want to be called Hispanic. But we're busy not finding out what we should say.
Right, exactly, exactly. But you know something, the prophet, Cuba, you know, we go to Cuba, we show our nationality card and,
They got
hey,
that.
we Cuban.
Did you know this? Did you know this briefly?
We got to really
Okay. One of the favorite meals down there in Central America, is something called Cristianos and Moranos. Basically, it's white rice and black beans. So even the food is reflective to the social construct between Christians and Moors, Christians and Muslims, Moors and Europeans.
Yeah.
So they know that they're Moors.
But this is the uniting of Asia. And when we unite Asia, oh, what a
And
day.
all my Haitian brothers and sisters, we're the same.
We love our
We
Haitian
got
brothers.
a wrap, and that's a wrap, and I'm so sorry. I wish we could go. We're going to have to do this again, but I got to get some money.
Islam.
We're going to have to.
Thank you, sister.
Islam.
Islam. So that was Supreme Grand Sheik David Bailey Hill and Jabbar Gainesville, the governor for Indiana.
Governor.
Yeah.
Indiana.
Yeah.
Wow. So you must know.
So with that, let's get on.
So, are you on Skype?
Huh?
On the stream?
Yeah, let's get the stream for the last hour.
When was this interview done?
It was a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
It's not recent. A few years ago.
but it's still significant.
Oh yeah, big time. Big time.
Well, it's funny because what they're addressing in the video are the same issues that seem to not be being addressed online with
Right.
all the confusion and stuff. Right?
Yeah.
So,
All right. Yeah, so any thoughts on the what we just watched?
I would say the significance of what the elder had to bring to the table in terms of the ongoing, legit, true nature of who we are
Right.
and what we have to accomplish
Yeah.
moving forward.
And then you were saying about the same issues, the same issues that nobody's addressing. That's been going on, right? So when we another thing too, what we really wanted to
also, in the beginning of the video, he really spoke on the beginnings of the MSTA,
right,
and how it all got divided,
yeah,
right? And he really brings a clear perspective, I find, on that issue,
yeah,
one that hasn't necessarily been introduced as much.
right, and you know the point of things not being introduced, right? Like he was saying. The real issue are the people on top. Oh, let's touch that light right there. First switch here. With that. Right? That's really what the issue is. That the people who are on top, remember he was saying that there's three. There's three cliques of Moors initially, right? The ones that were with the prophet, the Moors that were with the prophet, but figure that they can change stuff, and then the Moors who wanted a new prophet. Okay, the prophet, the Moors that were with the prophet that wanted to change were Kirtland Day Moors. And those are the same Moors with naturalizing and stuff like that. And then Gibbonsville, right? And these are the Moors that push the reincarnated prophet ideal. Right? So this is really what all it is. What we have today is 50,000 Moors in this, and 50,000 Moors in this, and then 50,000 Moors in this. Opposed to everybody recognizing that, just like Joali said, it's one temple, one prophet. We don't need to do this thing or prove who's what and whatever. It was already outlined. Like we said, find me a Moor today, born before 1939. Other than Bailey Hill, that can talk for all this confusion right here. And not just talk out of the mouth, but show documentation of whatever went wrong, what the issue is, who had authority, who didn't have authority, letters that were sent to people that they pretend, we never got the letter, acquiescence and all that, right? The reality of the situation is that there's an individual, right, that has the information to clear up the confusion. And the main issue of the confusion is that people don't want to acknowledge the fact that even though the prophet's not here anymore, what he said still stands. And you can't really change stuff because he's not here. That's why he made the statement of when the prophet was around. When the prophet was around, they didn't have this. When he was around, because as soon as you get it out of line, you're face to face with the prophet now. Now that he's not here, people could come up, say, oh yeah, whatever, sit in the seat, oh yeah, prophet came into me and all that type of stuff.
It kind of reminds me of kids in a class, and when the teacher leaves the class for...
Right, everybody's wilding when the teacher leaves class.
Right.
Exactly, that's exactly what it is. Right, that's exactly what it is. So, teachers, we have a full-time supply teacher right now. So, class is running rampant. Right? That's exactly what it is. So, with showing that, people who don't know what we're talking about, you'll see it on YouTube. But with showing that, it was just to introduce to the Moors, the Supreme Grand Sheik. So you could have a visual, know who this individual is, hear some things that he has to offer so that we can recognize that there are Moors, older Moors, whatever, that are trying to assist in making something happen, not just being the Moorish movement and that's it. There is leadership out there that is willing to listen to younger Moors and sit down, dialogue with them. It's not just a closed door. Nah, sorry, we can't talk to you because you're not qualified, or we don't like you guys, or whatever. Right? We want to touch on. Anybody any more comments with the thing? Any more feedback or questions?
Well, is anything currently happening in terms of a conference between all of these various temples, all the leaders, everything, to then clear up this confusion once and for all between the leadership, so that they can all go back to their temples and present it to the members?
Well, this is what he was saying about some people just aren't going to be down with unity.
Okay, so then we reach the rest of it.
Yeah, well, see, this is the thing that remember that with the three factions of Moors, that's the leadership, right? Which is now, it went from 3 to 1,000 because all these leaders, instead of taking that position of letting people know, we're not a fraud or whatever, they said, okay, well, we want you to come, come to our, you come to our stuff, and then you can, and then we send you guys out as missionaries to go push our warped agenda. Right? So now you have a situation now where if we say nationalize, not naturalize,
then you have all this.
Then you have all this stuff because certain people were taught by naturalizing people. That's how they were taught. So they don't have a reference point to say, oh, there's this other option over here because, if you go against the leadership, you don't have a temple to go to. You know what I'm saying? So for them to say call everybody together or whatever, it would be nice, but it's probably not going to go down like that because people are going to, immediately you're going to get the ego issues with people not wanting to give up their position and things like that.
Well, I find that also equally, even more ironic at the fact that that's acting more like a democracy, vesting the power in one or two people,
right,
instead of a republic,
yeah,
which is what we're pushing, what we're talking about, Constitution.
So, exactly. So it's the same thing that, we're not going to go meet with the democracy, try convince them to be republic. You guys go, okay, you guys do your thing over there, and we're going to do what we know we're supposed to do according to right, just, etc., etc. So, yeah, they are being the democracy. They are playing the position of No different than what U.S position is playing. That's the position they're playing. You know, and you know it's cool. It's not. We already know, you know, the three factions or whatever. Okay, well, everybody who's with the prophet, those are the Moors who are studious, you know, active, you know, not passive, etc., etc. Right? That's those Moors. Then you have the other ones that, you know, they might have degrees of knowledge and know their self and know that they're Moors and that they're Moorish Americans or whatever, but because their foundation is from somebody who wasn't really with the program, their perspective is going to be warped. Especially if they take that on as, you know, that's legit. The reincarnated guy is really the legit successor. But nobody never gave him permission to go and sit in the seat and all that. He just took that on himself. He self-proclaimed that position. You know, and then Moors are going to say, well, you know, we've had you know, relations with this individual and we know them, so you can't really, you know, knock them for, what do you mean? There ain't no reincarnating of nobody went on. And if we take that serious, if we take serious, you know, Easter egg hunt, you know, the bunny left the eggs or whatever. Now you're not questioning, you know, how bunnies putting eggs and all that. If you're not questioning nothing, then you get game. You know what I mean? And you're not gonna find no eggs. Right? Because the idea is to get people to just sway their attention a bit. You don't have to get them to fully turn their back on what's going on. You just sway their attention. Mm-hmm. By the time they bring their attention back, whatever they were focused on that's not even there anymore. Mm-hmm. You know? And that's how people get lost, because then they go back to somewhere they have no reference point. That's why we tell people, go to RV base, stay there. So when you go there and then you stray back, you at least have somewhere to go back to I was studying this thing for like 5 hours, got off track. We can just get back to the focus. You know what I'm saying? Right?
Well, no, just quickly, I mean, in regards to reincarnation, as Moors, we should understand the science between reincarnation. Fact of the matter is, you cannot reincarnate a living being already.
Exactly. So what, it has two souls in one body?
Okay?
Yeah.
That soul has already been doing what it's supposed to be doing. Reincarnation comes from birth.
Right.
So as Moors, they should understand and understand that from that aspect.
Right.
So them thinking, well, in terms of giving out, saying he's the reincarnated, well, when did he reincarnate? Like,
Yeah. No, see, remember that there was a lead up to
mm-hmm.
the reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
There was a validation or qualification or whatever for him being that, and that was having the crescent and star in his eye or whatever like that. You know what I mean? Which proved that, you know, nobody else has a crescent and star in their eye, only this guy. Then he must be the reincarnated prophet. Because, you know, nobody else is saying that they got a crescent star and moon in their eye.
As I said, go back to the science.
You know?
You know? Because you cannot reincarnate with, like, as you mentioned, two spirits cannot be in the same body.
And
unless you're talking about a possession, in which case that's a demonic entity anyway. And
why would you push that?
All right, cool.
Right.
Yeah. That's essentially what they're pushing is a possessed person.
A possessed person, yeah. Because there's no way that's no duality in him. You know, but if he said something took him over,
well, as I said,
then now it's up in there now. What took you over?
What took you over? There you go.
You know?
So these are the two different phases, right? So the other two, are they still using the science or the constitutional and the law? Are they still practicing that the same at least?
Well, the one that was for the prophet, you know, will keep things how they are, right? That's active Moors today doing, you know, us, wherever else. That's taking what Noble Drawley brought, studying it, realizing that, okay, you know what, you actually brought something, let me just implement this, see how real this is, just like anything else that you're doing, right? Then we talk about reincarnated.
Kirtland Bay.
Right. So the Kirkman Bay, there's letters from the true successor explaining that Kirkman Bay is a fraud. But, you know, they don't talk about those. They'll talk about...
So do they talk about nationality and all that stuff too?
They talk about naturalization.
Okay.
501c3 type thing.
So when it comes to the Constitution, South Florida and all that,
Well, I mean, they're there, but they're not there from the perspective of national.
national. Okay.
They're there from the perspective of naturalized.
But naturalized will get them in problems, won't it, in the long
Well,
run?
I mean, it depends on who you're going to.
Okay.
Because if you
In the de
know...
facto system I'm talking about.
Right, but the de facto system, actually, that's where we're going. So, what we, like, who the hell sent this? Somebody sent this, right? One of the more sent this out.
Is natural to the corporation or natural to the man?
Say that again?
Natural as in natural to the corporation?
No, not natural as in,
Natural being?
they're a foreigner
Right.
and somebody has to bring them into the fold. So instead of being nationalized or proclaiming your nationality,
Right.
they're taking the position that the Moor isn't really a Moor, he's Negro, black, colored, which means that he's a foreigner.
Right.
So he has to naturalize in order to be a Moor again.
But that doesn't make sense anyway.
And that's when they make the
Well, that-
Right, because you know naturalization is a process. You gotta pay for that.
right.
But that whole process doesn't make sense.
It's not free like nationality.
But it makes you subservient as
Yeah,
well, right?
it makes you there. It
So
makes
you're
you
under their jurisdiction?
under. I
Or
mean,
you're under somebody's jurisdiction?
you're under somebody's jurisdiction. It might not be those people that
Or
nationalize
somebody's,
you.
yeah. So
but
you said I'm
somebody's-
going to be under somebody's jurisdiction?
Right. So, how we further push or stress the fact that it's a fraud is with this article that just came out, August 27th. Renunciation of U.S. citizenship about to get more expensive.
Renounce, you have to pay.
So you gotta pay to give it up.
Right? So from 450, right, to
Stop it.
so in order to get rid of your
Citizenship.
quote unquote U.S
Okay.
citizenship,
So where do you go from there?
right? In order for you to get rid of this citizenship, you used to be able to pay $450. Now you have to pay $2,000
Money. Yeah.
in order to relinquish this and be able to claim another one.
So these are what, Moors that were relinquished or just?
No, this is-
Or to claim a new citizen?
Yeah, this is no, as far as this
So if
is
you're gonna
concerned,
leave the US and become a Canadian, it's $2,300 now?
yeah, like as far as this is concerned, this is what the U.S is saying.
Yeah.
Right? This is not to do with Moors or anything.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, right? So the U.S. is saying that
If you want to relinquish,
if you want to relinquish this,
it's going to cost you.
it's going to cost you $2,300.
Cash card.
But here's the issue. Here's the question. Where's why you have to pay to get out?
Right? Why? Right? Because remember, everybody,
You're closing down the
even
corporation, so you
Moors,
want some money.
remember, even Moors push the idea that you can be a U.S. national. Right? So if we go with this, that you're a U.S. national, right? If nationality is free, right? If we go with the fact that people who are U.S. citizens are U.S. nationals. If nationality is free, then how come there's a charge to
Yes, it is.
abandon this citizenship
Well,
for a new one?
well, the reason why is because when you look up the term citizen and citizenship, it talks about being a member who has all of the privileges to and the rights of someone of the nation. So if you're a member, it's basically saying you're a member of a city or a group. right? Well, you're basically giving up that membership, is what it's saying, right? You're not giving up a nationality. You're not changing your nationality. If you were, then you change your nationality.
Right, this is why they said renouncing U.S. citizenship, not renouncing U.S. nationality.
Right.
Because they never pushed nationality as the citizenship of people who live above Mexico and below Canada. They never addressed it as national. They've always addressed it as citizenship. So when all the Bushes and everybody else who was president, right, after the 60s didn't sign the UN Declarations of Rights, and then Obama came and signed the UN Declaration of Rights, he messed it up for these guys. Right? Because in the UN Declaration of Rights, it talks about anybody can change their nationality anytime, no questions. You just change your nationality.
No charge.
Right?
At any time.
At any time.
So you can just come here right off the boat and be like, yeah, my nationality is now this.
Right? Now you gotta prove that your nationality is that new nationality, You can't just say it out your mouth.
So
You're gonna have to have something to prove that you are this new whatever, right?
Which is your nationality card.
Okay?
Right?
So it's a fraud on top of a fraud they're doing here in
Yeah.
that sense, because just something that came to mind here, the Moors referred to as niggers definitely can never become members and citizens of the Union Society of the 48 states.
Right,
So you were never a citizen anyway.
right.
Because you're called nigger black, or even the state to say that you have a privilege, but now that you want to relinquish it, they're gonna hit you again with another fee.
Yeah,
No, but you're a subject, right?
that too.
That's the issue.
Which is why you gotta pay something,
Yeah.
because you're not really a citizen or a national.
But what
You're
they've done
really-
is they've covered up the citizenship.
Well, they're coming up with first part.
They've covered up the subject part to have you then sort of be cooperative within your own fraud. Right? So you're then carrying around their stuff, and then they're taxing you like a corporation, doing all that kind of stuff. But now when it comes time that you want to relinquish, well, you're part of our corporate identity, and this is what it costs.
So this is what it costs to do
It's
it.
just a corporate cost.
And then I think this is like
Which is also why around the
this
world,
is
in all these different countries, it talks about, oh, you can be a citizen. Come be a citizen. Don't change your nationality. They're not talking about your
Yeah, but
nationality.
that's because it all, I'm agreeing with you, but it all comes down in my mind to the tax base. Right?
Yeah.
It's all about sucking. What I realized in the last little bit of time is it's all about the fact that we are beings of light,
Yeah.
and it's the energy that they're taking from us.
Right.
Nothing else matters.
Not anything else.
Even the paper that you're running around with, that's just a divergence to what's really going on.
Yeah.
We need your energy. So if you want to come here, somehow there's been something magical happening here, while everyone's coming here. They know that stuff because they've been studying astrology and astronomy.
Right.
We've lost that. Everyone's coming here because there's something going on here. We don't know that, but ultimately they're just sucking, they're sitting on the top sucking all that energy off.
Yeah.
That's all it is, right?
Yeah.
And it's from a daily thing. The money could drop tomorrow. If we don't go to work anymore, it all ends.
Right.
That money means nothing.
it means nothing. Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. And that's the scary part, right? They've all got to have us believing that we need that $20 bill.
And then that's on both ends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like scary for them, scary for the people who are out here. That's should I not go in tomorrow?
But you know what's interesting?
if I don't
Today,
go
you remember I told you I had to go do this shopping for this thing for school.
Yeah.
We walked by this little fair, and there are people waking up. There are a lot of these farms now,
Yeah.
little organic farms.
Yeah,
People,
yeah.
we're starting to go back to that
Yeah.
kind of living where we're sort of being sustainable to the land, because ultimately business came in and took that over,
Yeah.
right? They don't want us being able to
Right.
not go to them.
And it's like what Drew Ali said, that it's not because of it's a good idea to go organic or whatever. People's facing the sword right now.
That's right.
That people are gonna go to. They're gonna like I was watching a thing today about a man who lit a Cheetos,
Yeah, that's smoking. No, it's fries.
Yeah.
No, it was not. No, it wasn't French fries. It was a different one. The Cheetos. Hot.
Oh.
They had these hot Cheetos or something,
Wow.
right? Some Cheetos named hot Cheetos.
What do they do?
And the guy was explaining how the the Cheeto has an ingredient in there that's used in flammable whatever, right? So he had his Cheeto, right? He got the flame or whatever, and man just had the Cheeto while he was talking.
Right.
And there was a flame on the Cheeto, like it was a match or something that he was holding.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just there. It wasn't, burning down fast or nothing like that. It was just,
On
you
fire.
got a bag of Cheetos and a lighter, you could be in the dark for a little while
Huh.
with a
Man.
bag of Cheetos.
With French fries, this one guy lit a French fry and just started smoking. Rips off the tip.
Where was the French fry, McDonald's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a real product.
It's not a real product, right? So the people who,
potato.
yeah, right? So the people who are saying, organic and they have farms and whatever, it's because of pressure. Because of pressure, that they're receiving in society that's forcing them to go back to whatever. Just like, you're only gonna go get yourself cut open so much until you say, you know what, I ain't going back to these guys cutting me open for stuff.
Well, what I
I'm
realized
gonna go
too
back to grandma used to say, drink this every morning or whatever like that, and close your nose and give you the thing that you don't like. That's where it's going back to. Because of force. Allah's making us go back to stuff because we don't want to listen to the ancients when they told us, 50 years ago, go back to stuff. Longer than that. So
Go ahead, sir. My question is, how can you be a national to a corporation?
right, you can't be.
So there is no such thing as a U.S.
As a U.S.
national.
exactly.
Doesn't exist.
Exactly.
But the problem is that if you sign any paperwork to
Right.
that
Yeah.
effect,
Right.
you are
You make it exist
And
by
already,
with contracting or whatever, but in actuality, there's no such thing as a U.S. anything, citizen, national,
But
whatever.
I think the issue is that I think Taj said it best, is that unfortunately our mothers signed us into this
Right.
at the beginning. So we're in a sense trying to battle out of that.
Battle out of something that we're in.
And then we've been carrying that on for a lot of time, even in our younger years when we were in high school and all those things, when we were passing those documents around. That was all setting groundwork, right? Getting your license when you were 16, right? I thought it was cool.
Setting you up for
all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Getting married, you didn't connect all of these pieces, right? And then you're layered in their corporation, right?
Yeah.
But really, you're not at all layered because the document, that instrument was void ab initio, right?
Yeah.
So what's the issue?
Yeah, the issue is that people don't know it's void ab initio.
Exactly.
So you fall in the jurisdiction.
Because if you're looking at it that it's real.
Yeah, if
then
you look at it
becomes
as
real
real,
to you.
then, we might not look at it as real. We might be like, well, you should whatever, and they'll be like, nah, whatever, I'm gonna be.
But I think the last part that we all disconnect from is at the end of the day, they've got a set of guns and these so-called administrative courts that go and do something.
Yeah.
They're adhering to something that's not real, but still is really real because the bullet in your ass is real and the jail cell is real.
And
Ultimately, I would say that relates to the saying, "A coward dies 1,000 times, the brave die only once." And you have to just stand up for the truth. You stand on your square. Doesn't matter if you get killed. Because you know what? This is just the flesh anyway. You're gonna die anyway. So at least die on your square doing something right. That's gonna improve your nation. Because people will look at that as an example, as a method. Okay, at the very least, what not to do.
Yeah.
When dealing with these guys. Right?
But we would think that that's what the case is, right? That they're gonna take the position of, oh, well, if that guy did whatever and got this as a result, and it's not really in favor of that result that he got, then we shouldn't be doing anything his way. But that's not what goes on. Right. People still, even though that guy got his ass kicked, they're still gonna go push the envelope to see if they can get away with doing that. You know what I mean? After that guy didn't get away with doing it. So, whatever comes, you deal. You know what I mean? You deal. But ultimately, if we can get people to start thinking, you know, like the brother said, you know, well, there's no such thing as a U.S. national, so why are you even talking about stuff? Right? Because that's really what it is. Like, you know, right? They're putting this out, you know, for themselves. But you know, if other people pick up on it and they want to talk about it and have a radio show about, you know, well, how come they're raising the prices of whatever? That's just giving their U.S. ideal, whatever, power. You know, opposed to talking about it and beating it up to prove that it's illegitimate. You know what I mean? That they don't even have the right to charge $4.50, much less. You know what I mean? But then the other thing too that was kind of funny is that, you know, they're obviously working towards something, because that's 9.
Yeah.
And then this is 10, right? So they gotta go somewhere after this, right? Or, you know, being that once you get to 10, you start back at 1 again, right? Maybe have something come after this. Maybe, you know, people who don't renounce, they're stuck after that. Whether you pay $2,300, $450 or whatever, you know, you should probably, you know, this could be the way out that they're showing people. You know, oh, we're about to lock this thing down.
Right.
You guys see Ferguson or whatever like that. You already
declare nationality.
You already saw all the train tracks of stuff that we got for people who want to be stateless. Well, you have opportunity now, but unfortunately, you know, it's gonna cost you $2,300 instead of, you know, and then you know, and then people are gonna go do this, which is giving them more power again. Because they're a corporation.
Sorry, the 23 paying that new fee or whatever, that's not, as far as a guy declaring his nationality and becoming a Moor, you don't have to pay attention to that.
This isn't for us. This is for people who are, you know, U.S. citizens. You know, foreigners or whatever like that came over here, they became U.S. citizens, and now they made $1 million and they want to go back to Switzerland or whatever. You know, they got to do this now before they go back.
But if they just jumped on a plane and went back to Switzerland, they'd still be under the jurisdiction of the U.S.
Right.
They could just, the U.S. could go over there and grab them, say, yeah, pay your taxes, whatever.
Yeah, or they could send them back.
Just right away.
The other people, when they go over there, they can send them back.
They're not Swiss citizens anymore.
Because they're U.S. citizens. Right? Please, fam. So all we have to do is, you know, be, like we're saying, be the example for people to see that, oh, you know, there's something different. You know what I mean? This isn't the average whatever, right? This is average. But they've been paying for this. It's not like, you know, this is a new thing that they're bringing up, paying for the renunciation.
So chances are they're probably going to increase the fee to get one as a citizenship too.
Right? Because it's got to balance out. Right? Or some other thing, you know? Maybe licenses are going to go up. Or whatever else.
Just your taxes.
You know what I'm saying? Taxes will go up.
Right.
But I mean, if they're going to do 400% increase in the renunciation fee, then, you know, you got 20%, 30% interest and stuff like that on credit card. You know, we know that this is how they make their due. It's about us recognizing that this is what they do and being able to impart our wisdom to the ignorant, so they can at least kind of consider stuff, even though they might not fully make the transition, but they'll kind of get what we're saying. You know, like the brother earlier.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right? You know, it's a thing where, you know, hopefully there's more individuals around when we're talking to people who don't want to hear what we're saying. So at least those people might get something if this idiot doesn't want to hear nothing. Right? Because there's always somebody listening. You know, like wanting to get to that next level. but they'll more than likely be coerced, influenced, inspired by the negative perspective than the positive. You know?
Yeah, it's something I actually really observed this past week was just how much people here feed on negativity. Like just feed on it. For no reason. Right? We call it trolling, we call it making a joke.
Yeah.
Don't take it seriously.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I?
Yeah, straight. Straight.
Hey. And it's funny, I hear people make the argument too, well, why does any of this stuff matter?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, well, why does it matter if I just call you black or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then you say, well, look at what's happening in Ferguson, look at
Yeah.
what's happening all around the world.
Yeah.
All these people are just getting abused. That's why it's important.
Yeah. But they'll never say that those people are getting abused because they're, you know, black or whatever. They'll always blame, you know,
The skin color and whatever
police
else.
did it,
Yeah.
you know, dog did it, fire hose did it, you know, mace did it, pepper spray did it, but they're never gonna say, well, you know, maybe I'm something I'm not supposed to be, why they did it. You know, maybe we haven't taken into consideration enough what we're being told. Because we have people who, like, there's people who have this info already, right? Look here, right? There's people who have this info already, right? That choose not to, you know, talk about it. Know that we're not black and all that, you know? Right?
Actually, I basically almost got fired from my job.
Yeah.
Because the guy kept calling me black, and I'm like, listen, I'm not black. And we were just joking around. We were just joking around about it at first, but I kept telling him,
Then
I'm not black.
got
I'm not
serious.
black. I'm not black. I'm
Yeah.
more. I'm not black. To the point where he's like, and then I started actually telling him, well, you know, an actual debt can only be paid with gold and silver. And he's like, oh yeah, well, if you ask me for gold and silver on Friday for your paycheck, then you know, I'm just not going to pay you anything. You can walk the fuck off the job.
Yeah.
Right? And it got to a point where he's like, all right, well, you know what? You don't want to be black? You can leave the work site right now.
Right.
Because he's like, because I told him, I'm like, you're not white, and I'm not black. He's like, oh yeah, I'm not white. You can leave right now. I'm like, yeah, all right. Here's your money. I'm gone.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, hold on. Right? And he's like, and he apologized. And he's like, all right, I didn't realize it was such a big deal to you.
Right. But so
Right?
now keep in mind that his reputation with our people isn't that. His reputation is, you know, they don't even care what we call them. You know, purple people, they're down with it. Right? And then you got somebody, you know, being defiant after, you know, all these years, you know what I'm saying? He's been dealing with people who can't ride, you know, and now you're coming up, you know, with doing the wheelies or whatever, you know, you spin the bike and all that stuff, and you're like, nah, forget this guy, he's not real. He's not no rider.
Yeah.
You know, nobody comes in here and knows how to ride like that. You know, but then when you drop some stuff on him, you know what I mean? Drop some ollies and jump over some stuff, now he's gonna say, oh, you know what? I really thought you were one of the non-riders.
I find once you do stick to it, like you want to do so-called stand on your square, they'll sit down and they'll actually look at you different now. At first he's gonna put up this thing to see if you're gonna back down, and then once he sees that you're not, you find he's gonna look at you different.
Right, but the fight is them pushing you. Them pushing you is so that you give it up.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Them pushing you is so that you say, you know what? Maybe I'm not gonna. You know what I mean? Right. And then when you do that, then they know this guy's fun.
Especially for a paycheck, right?
Right.
Because that's really what that was. That was a test of,
That's the real test.
Right.
I'm your supervisor, I'm your boss. You know, I'm the one who's paying you. Let me see how badly I can treat you before you stand up for yourself.
Right.
Right? That's really what that game is.
Exactly.
Well, one thing with standing up for yourself, don't be belligerent about it.
Right.
Just be more
Intelligent tone, right?
intelligent in the sense that stand next to something black.
Right. I did that.
But that's the whole point.
No, but here's the thing: is that even then he's like, well, what do you mean? Yeah, you're black. So he's still just like, yeah, you're black. What are you talking about?
But I like
Look
the
at your hair.
definition where he says that they're devoid of all moral light.
Yeah.
So if you show him that, obviously he's gonna, because he wants you to be something that's devoid of all moral light. Obviously, he's gonna fire you then. If that's the case. You want me to work for you, and I'm the worst. I'm the worst thing in the world.
Exactly. Exactly.
I just wanted to say though, I think the Prophet had also said that these buttons and fezzes and cards are for our salvation.
Right.
So going out there, I've had a lot of these cases where I'm working with a lot of Europeans, and they're always using the word black, and they're always doing a lot of this stuff. And I've taken the light of, it affects me, but I think a lot of that stuff too can just be those evil spirits coming to try and, you know what I mean? If you need that work and you're battling this guy about black and this whatever, you know, it's almost like he's dragging you down to his level.
Yeah.
You know, in certain cases. I'm not saying that.
But at the same time, that's where we have to come into more knowledge of law and about all the rights of. We have a right to shelter. We have a right to food. We have a right to clothing. So don't worry about you can't pay your rent, you can't pay your bills. Don't worry about that if you're standing on your square, because something will happen to look out for you, right? Or you'll create something.
Right.
No, but what I'm saying, I go back to the point that I think what the Prophet meant by that was that it's not for you to be battling these guys down to prove to them anything. That's, you already know that. You don't have to convince him. He's the last guy.
He knows too.
You gotta come and find. You gotta come and find one of us who's unawakened. That's where you should be going, right? Battling with him, he's just, oh, okay, this guy now finally knows. That's all he thinks. Okay, I got a guy, right? And be cautious. You never know. A couple months down the line, you may be out of that job anyways, right? The job.
I already am. Right?
Well, okay, then
after
I'm
that
saying-
week, right?
Well, so you see what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, they don't like you standing up, right? And they only want black people there. They don't want Moors, right?
Because, you know, black people can get taxed. They all did.
Well, actually, ironically, it's because they're all doing everything under the table,
Right.
Right, with construction and stuff, right? So it's that whole.
They don't have, there's no real rules that govern them, kind of. They can do what they
There's
want.
literally incolorable law,
Yeah.
right? Which is why they want to use colorable
Even if you
terms.
lose that job, you're still gonna find something else.
Yeah.
Especially if you're standing up for yourself.
Yeah.
You must find something.
Something has to give.
Even something better too.
Yeah, something has to give.
So,
Yeah, you had some question or?
yeah, I was gonna say, True needs no defense. True stands on himself.
Yeah.
I hate, like, honestly, emotion is it tends to evoke in us naturally because we're spiritual people. You know, but we need to harness that and understand that, you know, say the truth,
Right.
and leave it as it is, and leave the person stupid within himself. You know, like
The person receiving.
prove to me that I'm black.
Yeah,
I don't prove to you I'm not black,
right.
or that I am black. So
It's on them to prove.
exactly.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
more we exercise that, whether it's the police, judge, or whatever, we understand what square means.
Yeah,
There's no different type of squares.
yeah, right. It's either you're on the square or you're not. Sorry.
Also, the other thing I realized too, in regards to keeping our old name, right? Keeping it, having an XRL, right? That's also just protection, right? In case they try and come back and start using that name against you in court, whatever, right? That's what that whole writ of error and all of that is,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I think the
But
basis.
well, the thought I had was that is to take it further than just a writ of error. And if they keep going, then you sue them
Right.
for denationalizing them.
Right.
Well, that's a war
That's
crime.
criminal.
Saying
That's
that's
even better.
but then you can't even be in any of those courts.
That's right.
So ultimately
That's right.
part of the issue
But
is
that's the whole point, is to bring it up and to push it, so that way you have to we have to have some kind of international court. That's the only way we'll get it.
No,
is
it's not that there isn't one. It's just that our lack of being Moors for so long, you know, certain things slip through the cracks, you know, because it's not accessible. Like The same way how it takes a village to raise a child slipped through the cracks because everybody started moving out, going and live on their own. So now there's no structure because, you know, Aunt lives way over there now. She doesn't live next door anymore because she moved because she got the new job and whatever. So she had to go get the new area.
Well, all that was part of breaking up the core.
Keep us
separated.
Keep us scattered.
Divide and conquer. Is what
right?
they did.
Not that because we're scattered, you know, we have individuals work, but our reach is not as strong enough. I mean, we have very limited support structure in our community.
Right.
Like supremely limited support structure.
Well, the issue is we're going to the European for that support structure.
For whatever support.
Right. And that's
you got marital problems. You're not gonna go to the grandma. You're gonna go to the shrink.
Right.
You got, you know, whatever problems. You're gonna go with children's services because they got some office where, you know, they help you with single mothers, come and we'll give you whatever. I mean, once we get in that.
And what you realize too, that's what I realized, they give more money for single mothers than they do for people together, which to me is backwards, right?
Yeah.
So what they're doing is they're really propagating.
They're pushing that idea of
and then what
you need to be single mother.
And then what they've done is they've set up all of these laws that are really, they've put stress on the family, and then they put you in a place where you're not going to make money, so it becomes a powder keg. The instant man or woman, because they don't know how to deal with themselves because they haven't been taught properly or informed properly, they then have a little outburst. Maybe one man pushes the next man. All of a sudden, they separate, divide, conquer. We've now got the woman and the child.
Yep.
Here, we'll give you all the money. The woman thinks, okay, I got to keep the child because the man, right? But that started from the beginning too, right?
Started from that.
Well, even being with the man, if he wasn't of that right,
place,
of that right thing, but she's never been given that groundwork to pick the right man.
Yeah, it was an arranged marriage. Am I not doing
that's when you're like independent woman in, right?
Huh?
Yep.
Right? Right? Yeah. That's where they're going with independent women. Yeah.
I get it.
That's where they're going. And then that's why they have their poster girl, you know, who's not, you know, remember, she's not independent woman anymore. She's married now with children and stuff like that. What happened to all that independent woman stuff?
Yeah.
So are they going to write off all that stuff, all those awards that she got for being an independent woman and all this stuff? Are they going to write that off now because she's married? Who's this? Beyonce.
Yeah.
That was her song. Independent woman.
Yeah.
She's not independent no more though. She's married.
Never was.
And she seemed to hook up with someone who's got money. She didn't make a.
She's an independent man, you know.
Real independent man.
Independent woman, independent man link up.
Yeah.
You know? Right?
Even though really they're probably the most dependent on the system.
Exactly.
Right?
They're more
They
dependent
need
than
this system
anybody
to keep
else.
going, right?
Who?
Yeah.
Like Jay-Z and Beyonce,
echelon,
they need
you know?
the system to keep going, right?
Yeah, 100%.
For that money,
Yeah.
right? Or the illusion of that money.
The illusion.
Well, it's not really an illusion if we're all paying into it. There's a tangibility behind it.
Right,
That
there's some
$20
tangibility, yeah.
$20 means $20 because each one of us goes out and does some work.
The
for them.
illusion of power
Yeah.
that comes with having
Well, I think there's actually real power too behind it until it is all an illusion, but we give it power by feeding into it, right?
By
But
giving it
that's
attention.
part of the point is to understand that power itself, it largely is an illusion.
Yeah.
It's entirely an illusion. It's the mind, right? 7 principles, circle 7. The first principle, all is mind,
Right.
right? So,
But it doesn't mean that mind cannot manifest into force, into power, which one does, but that power is never really, let's say, permanent.
The better believe it becomes truth.
Yeah. Quote unquote.
So they say. You know what I mean? But my truth is based on facts. So I know.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know
So,
about
you know, everybody can believe in Santa Claus because, you know, they got gifts under the tree and whatever, you know what I mean? But the reality is, the guy went to Walmart to go buy the stuff to rank it. You know, the truth of the matter is, that was bought stuff.
But I think ultimately too, I think what I've realized from the very beginning is that all of the sciences are still based on true force behind that. There's a true nature behind, there's a divinity behind what they're using as the basis for things. They just perverted it, right? Like the 21st is the winter solstice. There's power behind that.
Right.
That hooks up with the star system. they've fed that into being, and that's a time when people should be resting, but that's a time when you're spending money. Maybe that's a time when you should be back at home with your families, sort of conserving. Instead, that's when you're spending.
That's when you're spending.
So, right, school. I was thinking about this now. How come school starts now? Well, it is this Labor Day thing I was thinking about. Labor Day can't be us, but there is something really weird to the first week of September being that, and then 3 weeks later, things start, like that's the end, right? Now it's supposed to go into a different energy form, right? How come school starts then? How come school doesn't start in the summer and spring?
Right.
Things should be growing.
People are growing,
right?
The funny thing is, my cousins in Ottawa, Quebec area, right? They start school earlier.
Right? So does States too. They started last week before even.
This is what I think has happened now. The same sciences that they've used to keep us down are the same sciences now that are gonna awaken us. So what they now have to do is they have to quickly jump back on board to those sciences to start using them, because they can't. That's why things are changing now. School's starting not at that time, because it's not about messing them up anymore. Now we got to catch up.
We got to catch up,
right?
Yeah.
So that's where I see that change. It's now. That's why the era of Aquarius to me is the era of knowledge and femininity. It's time for growth. You can't keep this stuff down.
Also, you can look at it too as in terms of they've pushed everything to a point of such negativity and ignorance and all the fast food, everything, that in order to be on top for the backward swing, in order to be on top for the backward swing when everything's going positive again. In other words, you have people like Bill Gates, so on and so forth, becoming rich now in order to be on that good swing, to be on top of it. So they're riding on top anyway, no matter what happens.
How it swings, they're always going to be right. Yeah. And then taking that concept and then passing it down to
literally
whoever it is.
The Hermetic
coming up
principle
behind them,
of mentalism and vibration and focusing on the vibration you want and sticking to it, and then learning how to neutralize the rest of the swing.
Yeah, but I think that there's, and I mean that's why we're here, because no matter what they've done, there's still another force behind that is greater than that. I've been trying to figure out this soul plane thing and connecting it with sort of us being alone in this world and this universe and not, and how the soul plane must connect to all of this. And what the work what is Noble Joe Lee doing right now? Because he's on the soul plane, he's doing work. So where's that work? Is that work happening to the is that being manifested in the physical bodies too? Or is that just being manifested in the soul plane where they're just hanging out in the soul? Because we have souls too. You notice, you see some of these people killing themselves. I think to myself a lot of times, hey, that's probably some soul shit going on, right? Where they're like, hey, buddy, you're coming. You know what I mean?
Time to go.
Time to go. It doesn't matter, right? That's why they just end their lives, right? That kind of stuff. And you see a lot of these Europeans doing that. Depression. I'm talking to a lot of my guys. They have this depression. They can't get over it.
Yeah.
That's probably because somewhere on a very basic divine level, they're not following the right things, right?
Sure. One more thing too with the jurisdiction issue with the U.S. Being that we're here, remember that anytime we say U.S. something / Canada, it's never just that we're talking about U.S. only. We're also talking about here too, because here is an arm of over there.
What was the actual, if anybody knows, what was the actual treaty that talks about that? That basically Canada follows all of the Constitution.
Articles of
Incorporation. Okay.
Articles of Incorporation. Yeah, Article 11. Yeah. Right. So there is a tie. You know, especially when we because a lot of times we miss stuff because they have us in a state of dumbing down. So a lot of our focus is downward. But if we look up, we see more stuff that we should see, that we should be able to make out to know what's going on around us. You know?
You know how the other day they're saying Burger King's buying Tim Hortons, right?
Right, yeah.
That's
yeah.
sort of showing us too exactly that
Right,
it's,
the
it's all
merger,
one big
yeah.
thing. They're not even hiding it anymore.
Right.
The Burger King's a pretty big corporation in so-called U.S., right? Tim Hortons is probably number one in Canada, number one over in this jurisdiction, right? And now they're just tying it in and showing you that there's no separation.
Yeah, but wait, what's even more I felt
You got a pad here?
I do.
I got a pad here.
But do you have his do you have the
Yeah,
paper?
yeah, his stuff's here.
Oh, it's there.
Yeah, his stuff's here. Yeah, I
That's
just
what I was
never had a pad.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I got it.
Someone's ringing you.
Yeah, so,
no, but what I
good
was
example, yeah.
what I was going to say to that, which I thought was even more layered, was the fact that Burger King is then owned by a Brazilian holding company. Right. So, and I've been talking to one of these South Americans who was telling me that basically South America has nationalized.
Yes.
They completely nationalized and basically kicked this U.S. and the IMF a lot. I don't know the IMF so much, but out. So what I start to then realize is this is a true American company owning a corporation of Burger King in an American U.S. Jurisdiction that is then owning, I guess, you know, like you say, at that level, we look at Tim Hortons and this is some national identity. It's just a corporation, right? But they want to make it, they want to tie somehow Tim Hortons into being, that's what I realized too, if you notice, they're always pushing some kind of nationality. It's always about trying to connect you to this facade of being Canadian, right? And they're saying, well, people aren't going to go to Tim Hortons to buy the coffee. Everyone's still going.
You just stop going.
It's not even a nation. We're not even connecting nationality. We're connecting your Canadian citizenship.
Yeah, but it's still under the guise of being a nation.
But that's one thing I've
Kill
been
the
noticing
people.
lately, more and more, is I don't hear anybody of Canada or of the U.S. talking about nation or national. I don't hear them mentioning the Canadian nation. I've never, ever heard that term before.
They better not.
Right? Because it doesn't exist. So
They better not.
But I also think that's the elephant in the room that they never talk about, and they keep it focused on everything else.
Yes.
And it's still about that, what do you call it, diverting your attention, right?
Right.
You're never talking about that because you're completely immersed in it.
In it.
Right? So you're never going to have to deal with anyone who comes here. Had better be American or Canadian, or else get the hell out. Right? That's the game that they tell you that they play. Right? You can't come here and tell you about the Moors over there.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
That was it, right? Just signature and thumbprint on it?
Yeah, just signature and thumbprint. Yeah. That's, I mean, just make sure that picture's there.
So look for more of this stuff going on.
Yep.
Right? Look for more of this.
mergers.
When you see, and not only
So this
you
one,
know, them linking up, them connecting the U.S. and Canada Corporation, but also outside nations coming in and buying stuff. So China coming and buying
those are
stuff.
real nations buying into a corporate
corporation.
thing, probably having to cover it up in a corporate identity, right?
Right.
That's why you got a Brazilian holding company.
Yeah.
Right? That's just a corporation.
Right. That's just a corp.
Probably being behind it, there's a national who's involved in that, right?
Exactly. Right? I'm sorry about this. It wasn't too much today. Just that video and touch on the U.S. charges going up.
Hey, what do you think about this Ebola thing?
Oh, Ebola?
That's kind of crazy, eh? But you know what I was hearing? I was hearing that they were saying, and this is why you believe it's back to that same doctor, you remember when we were talking about the AIDS thing? I'm convinced that this is another one of these, things. They're saying that the Ebola virus has mutated like 50 times in the last month. Basically,
remember, Christmas is coming, it's charity time.
Yeah. Charity time.
It's charity time.
Right.
Yeah. So please, like, I mean, I'm not downgrading what's happening. However, in terms of what's happening over here in your land, why isn't that being magnified?
No, 100%, but that's all part of the game too.
Yeah.
Right? You ever put on CP24 everything, well, aside from the few murders that happen here and maybe whatever little parade that they're trying to push, all of it's about the death and carnage everywhere else in the world, right?
Yeah.
We ain't hearing about anything here.
Nothing here,
right?
yeah. No death and carnage here.
But I still
Really
think
white here.
That's right. But I still think that this is a true attack on our people.
Yeah.
So, you know, and who knows what's really going on, right? But,
Well, Ebola is a virus, right?
Yeah.
And
So
virus
is
is
it.
man-made,
Yeah.
right?
So
So
is
you
it.
got this
You already
right
know.
here.
You already know. Right? But once we get into that mode of, you know,
thinking about, yeah.
like, you know.
That's creating an energy.
Yeah, just like I say, no, there's no such thing as you that as citizen, you know. Oh, it's a virus. Oh yeah, that's man-made.
Yeah.
Good one over there, guys. You know what I mean? Yeah, epidemic. Yeah. You know, why do you guys make the stuff to get rid of the Ebola virus?
That's right.
You know, but we know that ain't happening.
Oh no, that was the interesting thing.
That was the idea.
Check this one. Canadian company now is in the process of perfecting the Ebola virus.
Oh, they're perfecting
it. And should be ready to have it for
not the virus, the Ebola, the antidote or whatever. Medicine.
The antidote, I guess, for the Ebola thing. They're saying that. So I found that very interesting because you realize this is what these people do too. They create a problem, and then they produce the so-called solution.
Yeah.
But they only produce the solution once it's become enough problem.
Huh?
Right.
They only produce that solution once whatever it is becomes enough of a problem.
Well, to make it cash.
The Mendelian principle, correct? Or something like that, Mendelian?
Yeah.
Right.
When they create a problem, force a
Yeah,
reaction, provide a
Hegelian dialectic.
solution. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. That's how they does it. You know, so,
There's a middle word right there, he said that I don't know how to
Hegelian?
pronounce it. That's Hegelian.
Oh, Hegelian principle.
Yeah, but then there's a middle word that he said that I don't know.
What was that, Cujo?
Hegelian dialectic. Hegelian dialectic.
Dialectic.
Yes.
Okay.
You want to write it up there for me, Cujo, please?
It's problem, action, solution.
Oh, it's Hegelian.
Well, Hegelian, I thought it was.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a Hegelian.
That's why I asked you to class, eh?
Yeah.
MEG in there.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I thought you had something different. I was about to go look it up to see.
Yes, Hegelian,
Yeah, you know.
Hegelian dialect.
Yeah.
So Hegelian dialect?
Hegelian dialect.
So just like, you know, like those
So that's just creating a
problem
problem
reaction
Yeah,
solution.
force the
type
reaction,
This is the same
provide
thing.
the solution.
Yeah.
Problem is
Yeah, but this
Ebola virus. You know, the reaction, people are dying. Well, solution, well, we have something.
We
for
have
it.
something.
They talk
Well,
about
not yet. We're just working on it. Plus one more week for this.
Exactly.
Well, yes, but they have to create the solution for the problem that
No,
they
I understand that, but you know, I don't understand it's a man-made virus, but I'm thinking, are they cleanse us for our blood also?
That's
part of it.
It's a double. It's
That's part of
it's
it.
what you call it's 2 for 1.
Yeah.
Right. We're taking some people out. We're also producing a market for things, and then we're probably going to get you suckers to go into your pocket to give us a little $10
or something during Christmas. You know, with donations.
and then we're going to
we
show you
need
some
to
images
donate
of
the
people
virus.
dying.
So
And it also
sort of-
helps.
Oh yeah, and then they're gonna bring out the purple ribbon for the Ebola ribbon.
That's right.
Everybody buy ribbons for $1. Everybody's gonna wear ribbons, yellow ribbon, purple ribbon, orange ribbon, blue ribbon. You know what I mean?
And
Oh yeah,
of
and then the run.
The
Don't forget they're gonna have the Ebola marathon,
Yeah.
where everybody gets to go run for the Ebola marathon or whatever.
Well, it's literally the idea of you throw enough shit at the wall and eventually something will stick. This is literally what they're doing with our minds.
Yeah.
They're literally throwing just
Yeah.
this virus, herpes, whatever, and just to because eventually something is gonna stick.
Oh, yeah.
In your
It's gonna
mind,
stick, yeah.
right? And then even if you didn't contract it from somewhere, you contract it in your mind.
Yeah.
And then it'll start producing the symptoms
Then you
in your
produce it
body.
in your body.
And you'll
Yeah.
create it in yourself.
Yep.
They're also like sort of trying to.
Power of thought.
You're talking, they're testing the new virus on monkey, like the antidote or whatever,
Yeah.
and they keep showing the dark skinned people, so they're trying to equate you
Right,
just being
with
the
the-
monkey. They're going back to that, which
Yep.
they've been trying from ever since, right?
Yeah.
Chimpanzee.
So yeah,
And-
so that's go ahead.
I was just gonna say, one thing I've realized that's very obvious about quote racism and dark-skinned people hating light-skinned people and light-skinned people hating dark-skinned people is you're really hating yourself, eh?
Yeah.
Like
Ultimately.
You know where you come from. You know we're all one family. So why do you hate your family so much?
Right.
What did they do to you?
Yeah, but that's been part of, I think, the process
They
that
design it like that.
that they've been talking about, which has caused this stuff to fold in on itself. That basically, that thought energy is creating this problem.
Exactly.
Right? Everyone, it's sort of like a self-loathing.
It's a virus.
Yeah,
It's cancer, right?
Exactly.
It corrupts one
But
cell,
that's
gets
what's
that cell to
but
replicate
that's what's
itself
creating
to just-
the insanity within the European male who's going out and carrying on this stuff, right? That's what they were talking about.
Just as you said, the insanity of the, no, it was alright, man. Just as you said, the insanity was, I was watching this thing yesterday, Jane Elliott, is a European lady, dealing, she was on Oprah's show talking about racism, whatever, same lady with blonde eye, brown eye, whatever stuff, yo, she's heavy, yo, she's heavy. Jane Elliott, European, ex-teacher or something like that, you know what I mean, and she's using the, she's using eye color. She's using eye color to prove that all Europeans are racist until they experience what it's like to be to get
Have
it,
prejudice, yeah.
right? To have prejudice against you or whatever. So you know she does these little workshop stuff or whatever, social experiment. All the blue-eyed people go over here, and then the dark-eyed people become the dominant people in society, and then they become the minority, and they play that game. You know what I mean? And people really get mad and stuff like that.
Oh, people walk up to class, start crying, start
mad.
coming back into the class and
Yo,
being like,
mad.
fuck you. Like, just
Crazy.
getting wild about it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Based on eye color.
What was that on YouTube?
Yeah, it's on YouTube, yeah. Based on eye color. Crazy how some people, she was talking about this one man who she's seen the guy who was part of her thing like 15 years later, and she's like, hi, how you doing, well, you don't remember me, do you? He's like, no, but I remember you or whatever. You know what I mean? You're that bitch that was freaking whatever.
Oh, really?
And he was one of the ones that were treated, you know what I mean? Subordinate. And the thing stuck with this man for 15 years. Over some eye color thing in some little come together, what do you call it? When they give you the little honorarium money to come drink some pop, see if it tastes good or whatever like that.
It's marketing stuff.
Something like that.
Yeah,
Something like that. Yeah. A thing like that. Social experiment type stuff. But it's real. It's like real interesting,
Eye color.
Yeah, eye color. Segregating people by eye color. And it working.
And then she made the point she made the point of, well, you can leave, and as soon as you leave this room, that issue's gone for you because of your skin color, right? And then she points to, she's like, that black guy right there, his issue doesn't leave when he leaves the room, right? It's still here because you're still here, right? Because you still have that mindset.
So they would get whatever treatment, and they'll justify it by like, well, I've experienced racism because I went to a store and I had to change my shirt or something like that, right? Or I, whatever. I wanted to get a seat and then they didn't want to give me that seat because of something, whatever. And it's like, you obviously don't get it. You need some racism on you.
And essentially what she was saying was, it's different for a group of people when their whole social context supports that ignorance and supports that prejudice against them.
And people were defending people. Like somebody get yelled at bad or whatever, it's like, well, I don't feel comfortable with you yelling at her like that or whatever and all this stuff. Because it's crazy, crazy.
What's the name
interesting.
again, sorry?
Jane Elliott is the name.
Jane Elliott. Okay.
How you spell it?
E-L-L-I-O-T.
I-O-T, right?
Yeah, Jane Elliott. But interesting stuff they got on freaking YouTube, her little stuff. So check her out. Of course, the black-white stuff is gonna be in there, rampant. But there's a point. There's something going on higher than that. So we'll just get the closeout done. Islam to all the Moors online. Appreciate your boredom today and finding something to do. right?
Not even close.
You know what I'm saying? So, oh yeah, and we had a visitor. Yeah, we had a visitor from Ottawa today. He made a long trip. You know,
And I'm glad to see you guys because I'm always listening for years and I hear these voices. Right?
I don't be good looking.
It's a lot better now.
Yeah. So we'll just close out with the prayer moors and he's out of here. I'll face the east, 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth. Peace. Freedom. And justice. Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
And
my salvation. By night. And by day. To his holy prophet. Noble Ali. Islam.
Okay.
Peace.